Here we go. Good morning, everyone. I'm here with my friend, Marci, who's actually 3 doors down from me in the clinic with me. And I'm really excited to interview her today because she's also PT, but she also practices PT in a really unique way and a really fun way that I don't think when I was in PT school, I thought the way that you practice was possible. It certainly wasn't taught as an option when I was in school.
I
So,
still don't think that it's taught as an option really in PT
yeah.
school based on, like, I've had a student every year for the last, I think, 3 or 4 years. And I still don't think it's taught this way. I think that the way that I do it is kind of based on my own personal experience. And so the things that I've decided to go out and learn to support what I want to do and what I want my patients to get out of what they come to PT for is different because I'm not taking traditional PT Con Ed classes and taking the traditional path that people take when they look at PT as a profession.
Mm-hmm.
So I wish it was taught, but it's not.
No.
Because so I will say this, there is the idea that PTs should be, I guess it was 3 years ago, somebody came up with and coined the term PT as a primary provider. And there was an article about it on the APTA's website and on WebPT. And I think on the private practice website as well, as being a primary care provider as a PT. And should you ever truly discharge a patient? And so I think that they're kind of getting the idea that maybe we should look at it differently, but it's still not taught in school. And so if you're looking to do that, you have to go outside of school to get it. And people still, I don't think, are sure where to go once they get outside of school to do that. So,
Well, you can help people understand it today.
that's my goal. Make
Yeah.
everyone a better provider. Because I think, I mean, probably like how you got into doing what you're doing, there are so many things that we do already as PTs that almost seem like a little bit of counseling of our patients, but we're not really taught how to do that. So how do you learn how to do it? And how do you find the way that rings most true with you as a provider to help people get to where they need to be?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the hard part, I think. So
Yeah. And I got to tell you, if I'm going to be honest, the thought of being someone's primary care provider is absolutely horrifying to me. No, thank you. No, it's a lot. That's a lot of responsibility.
it is a lot of responsibility, but I also think I think when you look at that, so like when you graduated PT school, I'm sure you had the same experience of feeling like nobody in the medical profession valued your opinion. Like, and they would tell their patient, they're just a PT, they don't know what they're talking about. And then that patient would come back to you and tell you that, and you're like, what the huh? How long did I spend in school learning all this stuff to be able to tell you, hey, I think this is something else and maybe we should look into that?
Yeah.
And it was so frustrating. And so that idea that maybe by being able to understand better what's happening and being able to refer them to the right person and then building relationships with potentially other primary care providers, but also providers like an OB, or, you know, if they absolutely have to have surgery, the right surgeon, or if it's something that they need emotional support, being able to have a team of people around you for that, you know, having a great acupuncturist that you can refer to, having a great massage therapist you can refer to. And I even refer to chiropractors. And I know that a lot of PTs are going, oh my God, you refer to chiropractors, but I do, because there are things that I just don't do enough of, that I don't want to take the chance that I injure someone. So I'd rather refer that person out.
Yeah. To the person who has the expertise in that.
Yeah.
That's their main focus.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just was flashing back to this one experience I had. Well, first of all, I didn't ever work in an outpatient clinic, and I've only worked in hospitals until I moved here and came to Colorado. I worked in a VA. I worked at this place called Spalding Rehab in Boston, which was I worked in a spinal cord injury unit for a while. and I worked in a pediatrics hospital that was ortho and congenital abnormalities. Um, and I can remember taking, I don't know, talking to a doctor about some child that he saw that he had referred up who had back pain. And this is a kid who was 12 and had back pain since he was 6.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember the doctor saying, I don't know, he was questioning some of the exercises I was doing with him or something like that, which was bizarre anyways, because they don't know exercise at all. They only know like their golf game, like these doctors anyway. Um, and I remember him saying, I just want to know that when I refer someone up for back exercises that they all get the same 4 exercises.
Why?
Because he was all about like predictability and like wanting the best 4 exercises that would somehow be applicable for kids from ages 0 to 21.
That's great in a research study if you're
Oh my
looking for
God,
a
it was
control group.
crazy. It was like such an awakening moment for me of like, what am I doing here? This is not how I want to practice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
So that was, you had your experience of like, this isn't working. I don't want to be doing this kind of conflict. And I had this, no, I can't give the same 4 exercises. I will not. I
Yeah.
won't do it. Yeah.
Can you imagine trying to give and explain to a 8-month-old how to do
Yeah.
dead bug exercise?
Not only that, but an 8-month-old with Down syndrome,
Yeah, like
or a
so
12-year-old with no limbs,
yeah,
just the
that doesn't
torso and
work.
little arm buds.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
uh,
That's
it was just a
terrible.
few of them like that, though. There were plenty of usually the up and coming like physician's assistants and the residents, the medical residents that came through those hospitals were amazing. They were so understanding. They had much more open minds. They weren't so, I have to have it my way. Yeah. Orthopedic surgeons. I don't know. Do you work with a lot of ortho surgeons?
Um, Probably not as many as I did even 8 months ago. As I've transitioned my practice, I'm not marketing orthopedic surgeons
Yeah.
because if the client ends up here, they end up here. But I don't necessarily want to see just people who've had surgery. I
Yeah.
mean, sure, those clients are great, and I don't mind working with them, and I love celebrating in their successes. But a lot of the orthopedic surgeons here have opened up their own PT practices, so
Yeah,
it's
you're
not
right.
worth me spending that time and effort to go in and be like, well, I can do it better than your PT group, because they don't even care. It's about the income bracket for them,
Yeah.
not necessarily the type of care that's provided.
Yeah. And
So
also making sure that their protocol is followed.
yes, even sometimes when that protocol is not
Ridiculous.
necessary.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
ridiculous. It's made up.
yeah.
Well, let's backtrack a little bit because I want to ask you how you came into this field. How did you, were you in high school and thought, I'd like to be a PT? Or how did it go?
So my story actually starts when I was pretty young. The first time I actually had to go to physical therapy, I was 3.
Oh,
Yeah, I was a toe walker, but only on one foot.
oh, interesting.
I had a scoliosis
Huh.
that, I mean, you could see it at age 3, so it was obviously
Mhm.
congenital. And I was having just some problems with general walking, and I had my left foot turned in significantly.
Huh.
And so I had a lot of PT. I had to wear special shoes until I was 7, and then I wore orthotics all the way through high school. And now I sometimes wear my orthotics, sometimes don't. So yeah,
Hmm.
I'm not sometimes the best patient, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Um, and then I think I was in 2nd grade, I had my scoliosis shifted, and I lost all function in my left leg.
Hmm.
And I was on crutches for 6.5 months. They talked about putting me in a wheelchair, and I was just like, no, this is not happening. And worked with my PT again, and by sixth grade was one of the top runners at our school, because my school had, you could do cross country in elementary school.
Mm.
So I was one of the top runners at my school by sixth grade after not being able to walk for 6.5 months in second grade.
Mm-hmm.
And then I grew a lot, like 5.5 inches in 2 months,
Oh my.
and
What?
had Osgood Slaughters, which is that,
Oh
you
yeah,
know, the
yeah.
people who get the bone pain when they're growing.
Patellar
And
tendon. Yeah.
it was awful. And I went to PT again. And that was pretty much when I decided that I wanted to be PT.
Mm-hmm.
And the only other thing I ever actually even considered was being a large animal vet.
Oh, I
And
can imagine that for you.
I think it would be awesome still. And I've actually thought, because in PT, you can get a certification to work with animals, and you can
Mm-hmm.
have it be like dogs or cats, or you can have it be like horse specific. And I've
Mm.
thought about doing that, but it's like 5,000 hours worth of continuing education to get the certification. And I just can't imagine
Yeah,
myself
no, no,
doing
that's a lot.
that.
Kids at home, hell no.
Yeah. So
Huh.
my path to PT started, I think, pretty much from the time that I was born. And so I never really, when I decided, you know, when people would ask me what I wanted to be, even from age 12, it was like, well, I'm going to be a PT or I'm going to be a veterinarian.
Yeah.
And that was the only options. There was never anything else. And I remember in college, because the program that I went to was a doctorate program. And when I was applying to PT school, I applied to, I think, like 6 different schools.
Mm-hmm.
But in that process, my undergrad academic advisor, he happened to also be the dean of the department at UNLV when I was there.
Mm.
And we sat down and had a couple of conversations, and he's like, I just think you should take the MCAT, because I think that you'll be wasting your talent in physical therapy.
Hmm.
And I was like,
Really?
well, sure, fine, I'll take the MCAT, but I'm not going to medical school. Like, it's not happening. I'm not going. And I actually scored fairly, I can't remember what my score was, but I could have probably gotten into medical school if I had even tried to apply. And I remember us getting in a fight, like a loud enough fight, because he had stepped down from being the dean of the department to just being an advisor. And they brought in a new dean because he was like retiring. And we got in this fight. And the way that I met the new dean of the department my senior year of college was, this argument got so loud that the dean actually walked down and was like, what the hell is going on?
Oh my goodness.
And then I just decided, like, I'm not continuing the conversation. PT school is all I've ever wanted to do. Medical school is not in the cards for me.
Yeah.
And was able to hash that out, and then ended up at Regis, and have been in Denver ever since. So
I'm marveling at the fact that this man was so invested in your path. Like personally invested.
it was really interesting. And I should say, I think I've been pretty lucky along the way, like along my academic career. Even in high school, I had teachers that supported me, in some cases more than my parents did.
Mm.
And then, you know, in college, I had some really great experiences. And
Mm.
at UNLV in particular, the staff there, I mean, I was struggling with I think it was like my third semester physics class. And I went to the biomechanics instructor in the health field department and was like, hey, I have been going to this teacher's office hours and I feel like I'm going to fail this class. And he's like, you're setting the curve in my class, and physics is just applied it to human movement. Think about it all as human movement and rework the problems that way. And I was like, I don't know if I know how to do that. And so he sat down with me. I think it was like for 4 weeks in a row, we met for an hour outside of his normal office hours.
Mm.
And I went to, like, it was my only B in college, but I went from what I thought was going to be failing that class, because
Mm-hmm.
I got a 38% on the first test, to getting a B in that class. And I really feel like I got lucky with the instructors that I had, both in undergrad and then in PT school. I feel like I was pretty fortunate too. I had some really great people that I could rely on when I was having trouble. And it was
Mm-hmm.
just a good experience.
When I think back to PT school, for me, well, I must have gone a few years before you. I graduated with my master's in 2000. So
Yeah, I graduated with my doctorate in 2005.
Oh, okay. Yeah. It was before their, it was like the following year after I graduated, I think is when the DPT started, and it was all transitional at first, I think, if I'm remembering, at least in my area. Um,
Probably.
yeah, like you could go for like a year and a half and get your transitional DPT. And I remember thinking about it and being like, more school? I don't know. I don't think so. I actually want to start working and I want to learn on the job. But I remember being far more interested and invested in and engrossed in like my non-PT classes, which
Really?
makes me laugh now to think about. Like I loved anatomy. I didn't really like neurology all that much actually. But I loved anatomy and I liked anything where I could where things were practical. Like where
Hmm.
things were very like all of the hands-on classes I love. The kinesiology, the I took a massage class, that was pretty funny. Um we learned how to use a Theracane in the massage class. It's a whole part with the Theracane. I remember that now. Um, but I remember being more like mostly fascinated with like a history of music class that I took and European history and like these random things, which just makes me laugh now to think about how I landed in PT school to begin with, and then how I somehow became a PT afterwards, just kind of following my marching orders. Super fascinating. So, when you were done with PT school, what was your first job?
So I spent my first 6 months at a very large corporate clinic,
Mm,
and it was kind of interesting because I had done one of my internships there, and I really liked, for the most part, the team of people that was there during one of my internships. And I started working there, and within 6 weeks of starting working there, the whole team, except for the one person that I hadn't liked working with,
oh
had quit.
shit! Why?
Um,
Do you remember?
Different things. So the one PT, she decided to retire because she was having some health issues.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was another PT. He had gotten offered basically a a step below a clinical director position at another clinic
Mm-hmm.
with a different company in town. And now he actually is the director for two clinics for that company here in
Mm-hmm.
town. And then the other guy left to go to a different clinic as the clinical director. And then now he has since opened up his own practice. And then the company went through some downsizing because of insurance reimbursement. And so they had gotten rid of their entire like massage therapy and athletic training staff.
Oh wow.
And then they moved the physical therapy assistant that I liked working with
Mm-hmm.
to a clinic. She lived in Thornton and they moved her up to the Thornton clinic. And then I was left with the physical therapy assistant that I thought was, I mean, they should have fired her for some of the things that she was doing, like false documentation and charts and
Oh yeah.
not writing notes for up to a week after the patient appointment and
Yeah.
stuff like that. And I actually, because I filed a formal complaint with HR and said I will not put patients on her schedule and I will not sign her notes because it's jeopardizing my license.
Mm-hmm.
And they basically went like subverted me and had one of the OTs co-signing her notes for PT. And I was just like, I'm done. This is not ethical at all. And I left.
Yeah.
And I went to a small private clinic in Parker, and I was
Mm-hmm.
there for a year and a half. And I learned a fair amount
Mm-hmm.
there, and I had mostly a good experience.
Mm-hmm.
But the, half hour, 45-minute commute every day was just more than I
Yeah.
wanted to do. And so I went to a private practice in Lone Tree, and I was there for 4.5 years and then
Hmm.
decided to open my own practice. Um, Again, after just some more ethical disagreements, I thought that the team that was there was fairly strong. The PTs were all very strong, but there were some things that ethically I just didn't think they didn't align with my
Yeah. How you wanted to
own
practice.
beliefs.
Yeah, nice.
And so it was time for me to move on.
And here you are now. So
Yeah.
you've had your practice open how many years now on your own?
So I actually started seeing people part-time out of my home office in 2009. And
Mm-hmm.
well, it was actually 2007, but set up the business as an entity in 2009.
Yeah,
and
so
then
11 years.
opened in an outside space in
Yeah.
2011.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah,
Yeah,
so a long time.
yeah,
Yeah, longer than me.
11 years. I can't believe
Yeah.
that when I say that. Kind of crazy.
I know. So, huh. So when you first, well, I'm sure there's been all kinds of iterations of your practice. Can you share, what is your practice like now? What kinds of patients do you love seeing and how do you like to work?
So I like seeing people who have complicated histories.
Mm,
Um, and I think part of that is driven by what has happened in my own story as I've grown up.
mhm,
Um, but I like to see those patients that need more than just physical therapy. So
mhm,
my ideal client is somebody between the ages of like 35 and 50 who feels like they're kind of on the brink of that like health crisis and
mm,
things are going wrong, but none of their physicians are really listening and hearing them. They're just throwing things at the symptoms and not treating what's actually going on in the person.
yeah,
So usually they end up with me because there's a physical ailment, like, knee pain or I have one right now that has a diastasis recti. I've had a couple that have ended up with me because they've had surgery and their PT at other clinics failed. But really what's going on is there's something underlying that's causing them to not heal, and finding out what that is and then helping them correct that problem so that their whole body heals instead of just the injury.
nice. Like detective work.
Yeah.
You like the detective work. Not, yeah, I'm similar. I don't really like to follow a recipe. I'm
Yeah.
I'm not your, although when I first began working, I kind of liked the safety of this person had a total knee replacement 2 weeks ago. And now if you look at the protocol, they have to add in total knee extension or whatever over a bleach bottle, the kind of recipe PT, felt safe to me. But now, like, oh my God, I would die. It's so
Mm,
boring.
I don't know that I ever practiced specifically like that. Like I was the PT that got in trouble because I'd never followed the protocol. I used it as like a check-in, like, okay, where should we be? Are we ahead of schedule? Are we behind schedule? But
Yeah,
are we doing any harm? And
yeah.
so I think I kind of have always like
You're
been
a
that,
rules breaker.
because that thing, if somebody comes in and they've had a total shoulder replacement and they can already get to 140 degrees of motion, why would I keep them to 90? Like that
I
doesn't make
know.
sense in my head. Why would I limit motion if our goal is to get motion back?
Right.
And I never like pushed somebody into that motion, but if they had it, I wasn't going to restrict it.
Hmm.
So yeah, I was the one that the surgeons called and were like, "You're like not following the protocol," and I'm like, "Hey, this patient has more than the protocol, so."
What do you want me to do? Put some rubber cement on it or something? Yeah. So can you share some of the cool things that you do?
Yeah,
I
so
know you do a lot of cool stuff.
my favorite thing right now that I'm doing is really teaching people about how their body can heal itself.
Hmm.
Um, and I do some of that with emotional oil, some of it with supplements, and some of it with like dietary changes. And I'm not like, so the way you eat is the way that you eat. And if we can make minor adjustments in it and have you feel better, I think that that's better than if we have to overhaul your whole diet. Because if we're going to do that, it's probably going to take a year anyway.
Yeah.
And so if you're thinking about changing your nutrition strategies, I think that that's a long-term game. It's not a let's change this in 6 weeks kind of thing. Which I know is not how a lot of people look at it, but I think it's just sometimes overwhelming, and especially with everything that's going on right now in the world, changing your nutrition habits when you're living on a different budget than you were 8 weeks ago, and the stress that people are under, it's just too much.
Yeah.
So if you're going
Endless.
to change it, let's think about the long-term strategy of changing it.
Yeah.
So even when I ask people to food journal, if I give them a food journal, it's basically check the box on what color your food was and whether it was a protein or a carbohydrate. It's not
Hmm.
like I don't care what you ate, just check a box that tells me if it was white, brown, purple, green, red, orange,
Hmm.
and if it was a protein or a carbohydrate. I don't even
Okay.
care how much of it they ate. I just want to know basically if they're getting enough protein and enough
Hmm.
colors in their diet.
Hmm.
But like, that's not to say that you can't check the box if you ate Skittles. They're all the colors, right?
Yes.
So, and I think that's a different way of approaching it that's less stressful for a lot of people
Yeah.
because they're like, oh, I ate all the colors today. And, I just, it's got to be simple or people freak out about it. And right now, nobody needs any more stress.
They don't
So
need any more. It's much gentler. It sounds nice. Mm-hmm.
and I think it's fun because even a kid could do it.
Mm-hmm.
Like they can check the box and they
Mm-hmm.
know. So
Mm-hmm.
that's my strategy for like having people kind of monitor their food intake is
Nice.
just fill out the sheet that's check boxes. And I don't care what you ate. Let's just figure out if there's, are you getting enough color? Are you getting enough protein? And if we are not, let's fix that.
Yep.
And we'll still just have you do check boxes. And then if you're more serious about it later, then we can do the more detailed stuff.
Yeah.
Um, so that's one of the things. The other thing I've been doing every Wednesday, a Facebook Live on essential oils, and I'm calling it Wellness Wednesday Essential Oils. And last night I did one on emotions and had the option of doing you could be on the Facebook Live, but I was having some technical issues. So I also had a Zoom meeting set up
Yeah.
where I did the PowerPoint presentation through Zoom. So if you wanted to see the actual PowerPoint presentation slides, you could go onto Zoom. And so one of the things that I talk about with a lot of people is that essential oils are something that's all natural that you can try to help have support your health in different ways.
Yeah.
So the biggest one I think is that emotionally they can offer a lot of support, but also for other health conditions. So for instance, I've been struggling with my thyroid for the last 3 years, and my numbers had finally gotten to a point where they had like kind of stopped going down, but they weren't improving. And I was using all the normal like supplements that you should take. And then in January, I added essential oils, and I had been using them 2 to 3 times a day. And it's frankincense, clove, and lemongrass. And I was putting it on my forehead, right behind my ears, and then on the base of my skull and my neck.
Nice.
And I don't use them on the weekends because I have it right here. It's this little roller bottle that I created with
Fancy.
coconut oil.
Yeah.
And it sits on my desk. So I'm not using it on Saturdays and Sundays. I'm just using it on the days that I'm at work. And my thyroid numbers doubled. So
Oh,
now I don't have to
nice.
take thyroid medication.
That's amazing. Just from
And
oil.
yeah, and it's just something else that I was like, okay, well, this is supposed to help support this system. I'm just going to try this and see if it works because
Yeah.
this is like my doctor literally said, if your blood work doesn't come back in April normal,
Yeah.
we start thyroid medication. And I was like,
Okay.
all right, I got to try something else because I don't want to do thyroid
Much
medication.
like when you were in second grade and you were like, no, this is not happening. My leg is going to work. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I think for emotional support, I mean, there are, like, if you think about the one thing for me that I know works every time if I'm feeling like stressed out is to think about things that bring you joy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, one of the things I love at Christmas time, if you're walking through the mall, there's this guy that sells the candied pecans and candied almonds. I don't know if you've ever been in the mall during Christmas time when that
Mm-hmm.
smell is there.
Yeah.
But when I was growing up, there was this farmer's market that started about the 5th or 10th of May. It was usually right around Mother's Day, either the weekend before or the weekend after.
Yeah.
And it went all the way through Labor Day. And they did this open air farmer's market every Friday night from 3 o'clock till 10 o'clock on the main street. They shut the whole main street down. And it was just like local farmers and artists, and they had live music at different points, and all the restaurants that were on that main street would have like a booth out front so that you could buy like pizza by the slice or different things, whatever they happen to sell. And that smell in the mall during Christmas reminds me of that. And that's something that like I loved going to the farmers market.
Mm-hmm.
And I worked at one of those restaurants, so I was there every Friday regardless. And then after I'd get off work, I would just go walk the main street and enjoy that time. And one of the things that we know about smells is that in the research we can prove that they actually cause a chemical reaction in the brain to help trigger an emotional response. And
Mm-hmm.
so using essential oils to help with emotions is something that we can all do.
Yeah.
And there are some oils that are supposed to be more helpful with certain emotions than other emotions, but
Yep.
they it's kind of like a continuum. So the floral oils are supposed to help more if you're feeling like dejected and unmotivated, and the citrus
Mm.
oils are supposed to help uplift your mood,
Mm-hmm.
and the mints are supposed to help you with focus and attention. The woodsy scents are supposed to help you revitalize yourself.
Mm.
And so it's kind of one of those things. I do a lot of using them at home, even with my kids. Like they each have a roller bottle that I made
For
um,
them.
for them. And they actually, the last one that we made, they came in, I should have videotaped it because it was super cute. They came in and smelled all the oils and picked 3 that they wanted in their bottle. And they
Cool.
didn't pick the same things
Yeah.
because they felt like they needed different things at that time.
Mm-hmm.
But there are ones that can help you even feeling like uh, more grounded and focused if you're having trouble focusing. And those are usually like the ones that come out of the ground. So if you think about
Yeah,
roots,
like
like
this one.
balance, that's one of my favorites. The kid Alex actually has
Yeah.
that in his blend.
Yeah.
And
Frankincense and blue tansy and chamomile.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's a great one.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people can use that one as one that just kind of helps like calm like that sense of overwhelm down
Yeah.
a lot. And frankincense is known as the king of oils. So if you think about like, by biblical stories, they talk about bringing the baby Jesus frankincense and myrrh, right? Well, those
Yeah.
are both essential oils that are very hard to come by. They're kind of expensive and they're hard to distill. And so they have a lot of healing properties related to infections and how your nervous system is working. But they're also oils that can help change your mood. And I think that that's really
Mm.
kind of cool. And actually, that's one of that I have that one here. And I use frankincense a
Yeah.
lot for a lot of different things because it helps support so many systems. Like I said, it's one of the ones that's in my blend for helping support my thyroid. The
Is
other
that
one I
blend
really,
good for anybody with thyroid thing, or is that specifically for you?
no, yeah, that is for if you have a low functioning thyroid, those
What's in
oils.
it again? Just so people
It,
can
it is
frankincense
frankincense, clove, and lemongrass.
and lemongrass. Cool. Noted.
One of the other ones that I like is this one. I gotta make sure I get the bottle facing the right way so you can see it. It's Aroma Touch.
Oh yeah, massage blend. Is that a minty
Yeah,
one? Does it have eucalyptus in it or something?
it does have peppermint. So it has peppermint, marjoram, uh, basil, grapefruit, and
Mm,
lavender. So
nice.
that's what's in it. So um, it's supposed to help with inflammation, help you feel uplifted, and then help you also feel relaxed. The lavender,
Mm,
obviously. But peppermint is a great anti-inflammatory too.
mm-hmm,
And it helps take the sting out of a sunburn. So if
mm,
you like get a sunburn, you can put it in a spray bottle with
mm-hmm.
water and spray it, and the like sting of the sunburn goes away, which is kind of nice.
Good to
So
know for
that's just a
me because I've
little.
been walking in the morning lately. I did get a
Are you
little sun
kidding?
on my shoulders.
I was doing yard work a couple weeks ago and I was no, not yard work. On Mother's Day, I was sitting out front. We were playing what's that game? Cornhole.
Yeah.
And I had this necklace on and it has all these beads on it that are different sizes. And I got sunburned, but you could see the white from where the beads
I've
were.
got you still wearing a necklace.
It was pretty funny. My husband was making fun of me for that. And then one that just kind of supports, I love the way this one smells, but it helps support the immune system significantly. And there's research, actually, John Hopkins did a research study on this particular blend. It's the On Guard blend from doTERRA.
Mm,
In that research article, if you type in essential oils, immune system support, and virus,
yeah.
the article comes out and it talks about how much it prevents the spread of different viruses. Um, but it's a really great oil for supporting the immune system in general, and it's the On Guard blend. And I actually use this in my coffee every day.
Oh, nice.
It has wild orange, it has cinnamon and clove. Let me see what else it has in it. I should know this one because I use it the most. Um, and then it has eucalyptus and rosemary. And it almost makes my coffee taste like it has chai in it, but it doesn't have the
Nice.
sugar that chai, like if you go to
Oh,
Starbucks, has,
yeah.
because the chai is a syrup for them.
Starbucks
So
chai is gross.
it's really sickly sweet.
Ugh,
This is like light and very flavorful, but it
interesting.
doesn't give you that like sugary feel to it.
Huh.
So it's kind of nice.
Well, I'm like talking about proprietary information here, but is it different than thieves or not? Is it kind of the same?
Yes, it's different. So actually, and I mean, it's good that you bring that up because there's some questions about proprietary information between doTERRA and Young Living.
Hmm.
And there was actually a lawsuit where Young Living filed against doTERRA, and they said that they had stolen basically proprietary information. And
Yeah.
the lawsuit actually got dismissed because they had an independent lab come in and test the products from doTERRA that were
Yeah.
supposedly the same as the products
Different.
from Young Living.
Yeah.
And what they found is that Young Living tends to, especially in their blends, use some oils that are synthetics.
Oh,
And so
interesting.
doTERRA uses only pure products.
Huh.
And
That came to bite them on the ass.
it did. Um, and
Oops.
they still, some of their individual oils are still very good.
Yeah.
But they, you know, when you have a product that has a synthetic in it, the problem with synthetics are those are typically what will interact with other products.
Mm-hmm.
So if you think about the difference between name brand drug
Mm-hmm.
and the generic, the thing
Mm-hmm.
that's usually different is the filler. Well, that filler can be something that's more pure or something that has more synthetic in it. And that's the main difference. And the synthetic in the filler may change the way the drug interacts in your system.
Right.
So the same thing is true when you're using essential oils. So there's that question of, should I take oils internally or not? You should be really careful about that because there are oils, yes, that you can take internally,
Mm-hmm.
but you want to make sure that you're taking a certified pure therapeutic grade oil and not something that you pick up at like Walmart, or even sometimes the ones that you get at Whole
TJ
Foods
Maxx.
are
Yeah.
not
Oh, really?
completely pure.
Mm.
And so you just want to be careful about that.
Yeah, just know. Very cool. Thank you. Now I want to go on to my
Yeah.
doTERRA website and order On Guard because I'm like, I want to
Oh
put that
my
in my
gosh.
coffee. Sounds
It's
amazing.
so good.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah. And I have coffee every morning and I love chai, but I like to get at Sprouts, they have this box chai called Bhakti. It's on the top
Yeah.
shelf above the teas. And I usually will put that into my coffee to make a dirty chai or a dirty,
Yeah.
they call it a dirty chai. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing. So, hey, I'll try it with On Guard and see what it's like. Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah. Very good.
Delicious.
So, are you working online now? If people want to, if anybody who's watching this wants to book an appointment with you, can they be seen online by you, or do you prefer to have people come in?
I'm doing both. So a lot of the like functional medicine stuff that I do can be done online. Most of it can
Mhm.
actually be done online. We can even like if we feel like we need to order tests, I can get kits sent direct to their home so they don't have to even come to the office and pick them up, and then they mail them direct back to the lab that's testing them.
Nice.
Um, and I am doing evaluations for PT patients online.
Oh,
Sometimes I will then ask them to come into the clinic if I feel like I need to see them, or if they're not in my area, I might send them to somebody that I know in their area
yep.
if I feel like they need something hands-on.
Mhm.
But I'm doing online stuff and in person, so they can do
Mm.
either way.
Nice. Okay. So how can people get in touch with you if they want to book? What's the easiest way?
Probably the easiest way is through the website agilityphysio.com, and that's agility physio.com.
Yeah.
The contact us page comes directly to my email, so I'll be the person responding to that. And if they want to book a like an online consult, if they'd rather do that instead of email me, they can go to agilityphysio.janeapp.com, And there's a 20-minute phone consultation that they can book there. And
Yeah.
that just gives them, they can look at my schedule and book it when it's convenient for them.
Nice. That's very cool. So they can just decide if you are going to be the right practitioner for them.
Yeah.
Like if you have what they need or whatever. Yeah. Which I'm sure for most people you do. Very cool. Well, thank you so much. This was really fun
Thank you.
talking with you down the hall. I didn't know any of that, the background of your foot and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's of course, as you know, was my wheelhouse for 12 years, was working with kids who were exactly in your shoes, trying to figure out, where is this coming from? And did you ever have a gait analysis lab?
Probably not in terms of the way that like you think about it, because technology has advanced since I was 3 years old.
Yeah.
But I had I worked with somebody, I think at the Children's Hospital for a couple of weeks, and then I saw a podiatrist, and then I got sent to PT after like shoes were made for me, because x-rays, my left leg is shorter than my right still. So I should be wearing an orthotic that at least supports the fact that my left leg is shorter. But
I mean, how much shorter is it?
Almost 10 millimeters.
Oh,
So significant enough that I should be wearing.
It's about twice what is kind of average, I think.
Right? Yeah. So yeah, I think the average female has somewhere between 3 and 5 millimeters of difference, and I have almost 10. So yeah. It's clinically relevant.
But is it relevant in your life?
The only time I notice that it really makes a difference, and so I guess I should say too, part of the reason that I don't wear my orthotic, I would tend to wear it more when I'm not swimming as much. But when I'm swimming, I find that when I'm wearing it the whole time, having my legs be equal and then getting into a pool where they're now not equal, it changes the way that I kick. It changes the way that I push off the wall. It changes the way that I go off the blocks. And it almost disrupts what is natural in the water. Yeah. So great on dry land, I'm perfectly normal, but in my preferred activity, I am not. Yeah. And my hope was that I was going to get to start swimming this week, because this would be the normal week that our outdoor pool would open. And so I haven't been wearing it for like the last 4 or 5 weeks, and we didn't get to start swimming outside yet. So
yeah, I wonder if pools are going to open.
Yeah, there's a lot of question about not the pool itself, but the social distancing around the outside of the pool and in the water.
Right.
And I don't go to the pool to just like hang out and tan. I'm a competitive swimmer, so I want to go get laps in. And that's not happening right now.
This world is weird right now. Well, thank you so much for your time. And if anybody wants to have any kind of consultation with you, I'll put the link to your website in the notes. And I'll see you in like 2 seconds in the hallway.
Okay, sounds good.
Bye.